Welcome to Am I the A-hole, where OP sends a kid to jail. This next post is by Wildspread8713. My son Bryce had been dating our neighbor Lana for a year. They broke up in mid-January for reasons I don't know. I won't sugarcoat this. I never liked Lana. She always seemed a little unhinged, controlling, and aggressive. She's always demanding Bryce's attention, and there's been quite a few times where she just showed up unannounced, whether it was 7 a.m. or 11 p.m. because Bryce wasn't answering his phone, so she would scream, calling him a cheater, when it was never like that. The thought of our son getting abused by his girlfriend made us worry so much. My wife and I tried to talk him out of that relationship. We said how this wasn't normal or healthy. We didn't want to force a breakup because we feared that Lana would lash out, so we tried to do it in a sneaky way. We didn't know if it worked, but they ended up breaking it off. He said that after he broke up with her, Lana didn't contact him, which was weird because we expected her to go nuts, but I told him that if fate didn't give him shit, he better not tease it. Now the problem is that we bought our son a car for Christmas. Nothing fancy, just something enough to get him to school, his job, and eventually college. He parks it outside in our driveway. Ever since the month began, we had been noticing small scratches all over the car. We know it's Lana, but since it was minimal, my son didn't want to do anything about it. And even though he can prove it because we have CCTV, he still did nothing about it. Something still smelled fishy for me, so I decided to place one of the cameras facing directly on the car, just in case. Well, 2 weeks ago we got up and found my son's car covered in a ton of crap. Paint, glue, feathers, confetti. The door handles were wrecked. Flat tires, paint all over the windows, you get the picture. Bryce and my wife were distraught. We called the police and I handed them the CCTV that showed Lana and her brother destroying my son's car. We pressed charges and needless to say, Lana's brother went straight to jail. But since she was still a minor, her parents wanted to make a deal for her, but I refused. I don't think she should get a way out. Before the police got there, she was laughing her ass off and she tried to play it cool when the cops got there. If she thought this was funny, she's old enough to face the consequences. My wife and I want to stand our ground. They said that they'll buy my son a new car and put Lana in therapy, but it's not enough. Am I the a-hole? Okay, yeah, definitely not the a-hole. OP, she destroyed your property. You and your wife specifically bought that car for your son. So essentially, she destroyed your car. Now I wonder what would happen if her brother got back from jail and he found his room completely torn to shreds, with paint all over the wall, feathers all over the wall, anything. And same goes for Lana too. Judging by the story, she would go crazy. And also, even though you can't send her to jail, I'm pretty sure you can send her to juvie because I believe that's jail for minors or for people who are under 18. So yeah, OP, definitely not the a-hole. Her on the other hand, if I had to give her a proper a-hole score, I'd give her a 50%. Her brother gets 30% because he was dragged into it, and the parents finally get 20% because the way that they're both acting is definitely due to their teaching and upbringing. Also, I'm kind of bad at math, so if I did that percentage wrong, yeah. Our next story is from Cheap Apartmenty. Am I the a-hole for telling my boyfriend that he can't date younger and that he can't get upset for my budgeting? So I recently got together with a guy from my hobby and he asked me out first. I had some doubts seeing as though we work together and as a couple because of the age difference, he's 35 and I'm 22. So in my apartment, since it's an old house that was originally a single family house, there isn't much soundproofing and the floors creak whenever people move. I've gotten used to the sound of the guy upstairs getting up at 4 a.m. and moving around since he starts work at 5. And the sound of the girls on either side of the apartments watching telenovelas till midnight, taking work calls all day, and having friends over on the weekends. I know when I play music or have friends over, some of the sound leaks through the walls, so I'd never get upset about it just because it goes both ways. So when my boyfriend started coming over more often, he had complaints about the neighbors, which put me in an awkward place because he wanted to go speak to them or have me text them, and I said no. For example, one of the early times he stayed over, we went to bed around 10. He wanted me to ask my neighbor to turn her TV down. I said she didn't have it that loud anyways, and plus it's midnight. At 4 a.m., he got very irritated with the upstairs neighbors getting up and cooking breakfast. I said that they would be done by 5 because that's when his shift starts. At 7 a.m., he was still trying to sleep in, and the neighbor on the other side had some work calls that he said that he couldn't sleep through. I offered him earplugs, and he said that he wouldn't be able to sleep with them in either. He wanted me to ask her to quiet down. He had similar comments every time he heard someone in the building just living their life, especially if it was when he was in bed. I got frustrated with my boyfriend and I told him, you can't expect to date a hot young 22-year-old and not want to deal with a 22-year-old's living situation. I don't know if you realize this, but this is pretty normal for someone my age. Hell, my neighbors are being pretty great. Nobody's throwing loud parties on work nights, nobody's having screaming fights, and nobody's having babies. Oh, and by the way, that hot young part was his words about me. He got irritated and asked why I was bringing age into it, and I said it's because he can't both want someone so young and also want someone with house kind of money. And he was being so out of touch with how normal people live their lives in their 20s. He got really irritated with me bringing age into it, and even more annoyed when I'd respond to his neighbor complaints with, okay boomer, or tell him that if he wanted to have a rich person apartment, he could pay for it. Am I the a-hole? Okay, so before I even give a rating, I just want to read these edit comments. So the first one is, a lot of people are asking why I can't stay at his house. And it's because it's not possible for me to get to his house because I don't own a car. So that would mean him driving 30 minutes from his house to the suburbs to come pick me up, and then an extra 30 minutes drive to his house, and an early morning round trip to get to the city in time for work. And then the third edit is, I googled his property records from his house, and he co-owns it with a woman who shares his last name. I don't know if it's his ex-wife or his current wife, but I'm out of here. So, okay. All right, hold on. The one thing that was sticking out to me throughout this entire story while I was reading it was the fact that he was 35 and you were 22. The age difference doesn't really matter to me, but it was the fact that he was 35 and acting like an 85-year-old. Like, seriously, was it just me thinking that during this entire thing? Like, this guy acts like noise is so much of a bother to him. Maybe he has sensitive ears or something like that, or he really just can't fall asleep with noise in the background. But me personally, I need to have background noise in order to fall asleep. So that would be welcomed. And then you're over there 22 years old and not complaining about anything. Maybe it's because you're used to it, but I don't know. It's just kind of weird to me. Like, you guys don't have that much of an age gap to where it's strikingly clear, but he's the one that's acting about 4 times his age. And then OP, okay, I understand not seeing it in the moment. Like, yeah, you might be excited to try a new relationship and everything like that, because me, while I was reading the story, never crossed my mind. So there's no judgment here, right? So I'm just saying, if somebody that you're dating is trying to stop you from seeing their house, or even if there's a problem with you coming to their house but there's no problem with them coming over to your house, then that's kind of a red flag right there. Or at least for me personally, because if we can't visit each other on equal terms, then you're probably hiding something from me. So it's good that you found the property records and got out of there. So yeah, OP, you're definitely not the a-hole here, but your boyfriend on the other hand, or should I say ex-boyfriend, definitely gets a 75%. This has been Am I the A-hole? I hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.